Hi guys, have you ever started a project so promising and somehow it failed? Well, project failure is something that is more common than you think today, and in this video I'll be sharing how to avoid project failures or the common mistakes that lead to project failure and how to actually avoid it. Stay with me guys. The first reason is poor project definition. More often than not, people jump into projects without properly understanding the scope and defining the expectation of this project. You see scenarios where a project manager jumps into a project and doesn't really ask for more context around what the project is all about and just assumes that you can break down the high-level information and then define your project from there. No, you should actually organize a project definition session where you're actually getting insights and asking questions about the project, what the stakeholder's expectation is, and whatnot. Like I tell people, no clear scope, no clear goal equals to disastrous project. Always ensure your project scope and objective is well defined before you actually jump into starting your project. Like I usually tell my mentees, a project with no clear scope and no clear goal equals to major disaster. Always ensure your project goals and objectives are clearly stated and as well the scope. And you might be wondering, oh, how do I properly define my project? This is done by speaking to the project sponsors, speaking to your clients, or speaking to the key stakeholder to actually understand what the expectation is, what the end goal they're looking at is, and that helps you properly define what your project should be. One major mistake that I myself made during the beginning of my career was poor project planning. And that's because sometimes I feel like because the boss has said it should take 2 months, then I say, oh, I have to squeeze into 2 months. This leads to creating unrealistic project plans in your project. And to be able to do this, you have to ensure that you've properly listed and considered everything around your planning. Consider your risk during your planning, consider uncertainties, consider the known and unknowns, right? And actually factor that into your project schedule. More often than not, we find our project failing because we've actually been over ambitious about our schedule and then shoot ourselves in the foot even before the project starts. Like I tell my mentees, a plan isn't just a schedule. A good plan factors in risk, uncertainties, and ensures that the timelines are realistic based on the reality of your project. That is, availability of resources, the number of resources you have, the complexity of the projects, and whatnot. These are things that you actually consider when defining your project schedule. The third mistake is lack of proper stakeholder engagement. If you're not engaging your stakeholders properly, you would miss important information. You would also get a lot of escalations because you're not communicating the right way. And you'd also struggle with unrealistic expectations, and that's because you've not properly communicated with your stakeholders. So guys, ensure you communicate properly. Another major thing is resource constraints. As a project manager, before you even embark on your project, you should actually know the number of resources that you're actually going to need to deliver the scope. More often than not, we just accept going into it or starting up a project with less resource and then not factoring that into the timeline. More often than not, we also find ourselves in a situation where we have underskilled people right in our project. So to be able to avoid this, you need to ensure that you actually look at the appropriate skills for a project with certain complexity, right? You need to ensure that you have the right team members and you've scoped for the right people within your team. As a project manager, the key driver of your project activities are actually the resources that you need. Not properly allocating resource or assigning the wrong resource to different tasks or not considering the required skill set for the complexity of your project can actually derail your project and lead to failure. Imagine a case where you actually have a complex project and you're actually assigning a rookie or a beginner to actually do that complex task. You find out that the project will take so much time and you might even end up having lots of rework during this project execution. So you need to consider your resource properly. Also, you need to allocate resource at the right time and procure resource at the right time. You're not supposed to actually start procuring the resource during or close to when you actually need to get the activity started. You need to consider the lead time, right, to get this resource, and then the time you actually schedule for this activity to start. Proper resource management would help improve your project success. But in a case where it's done wrongly, bro, your project is going to fail. Another reason why projects fail is poor project management skill. You're watching this video because you're a project manager, but there are some times that there are things that some project managers often do not consider, right, when managing their projects. And not having the right project management skill would actually lead to failure in your project. So this means you need to actually equip yourself with the various project management skills, identify the gaps you have in terms of managing projects, and then learn more about it. This in itself would help you improve your project delivery. Another reason why projects fail is testing and quality issue. More often than not, we rush the testers to actually deliver on their own testing activities when they actually need more time to test. This leads to rush work and improper testing. Not testing your product properly or testing your project properly can actually lead to failure and displeasure on your client side. So you need to actually consider ample time or assign ample time to your testers to ensure that they are testing properly, and as well ensure that the resource you are assigning to test is someone who can actually test. And as a project manager, to be honest, you also need to look at the quality of the product that's being done and try as much to also look at the basic things that should actually come with a good quality. And lastly is poor implementation process. Fine, you're a project manager, but do you actually do what you need to do in terms of managing your projects? Do you monitor your schedule on a day-to-day? Do you manage your risk, right, on a day-to-day? Do you actually work with different stakeholders and communicate the way they should? Do you help your team solve blockers? These are major things that you actually need to do during your project implementation. Do you also manage change the right way, or you just accept change and then increase or change the scope of your project? As a project manager, you need to actually consider the right processes to manage your change by implementing change management process, a proper risk management process where you're managing all the risk on your project, and as well a schedule management process where you're properly managing schedules, rebaselining in a case where you notice that there's a delay as a result of it, and properly communicating with your stakeholders. Project failure is not inevitable if you properly plan, manage your stakeholders, properly define your scope, manage your project risk and issues, manage quality properly, right? Plan properly, and do all the things that you need to do in terms of implementing your project successfully. So tell me, which of the challenges have you faced before, and how were you able to resolve it? Please guys, now it's your turn to instill knowledge in others. Don't forget to tag a project manager who needs to listen to this, and keep following these PM insights. See you again guys. I'm off.